Hello everyone. So I have been very behind on my Goodreads reading challenge. I'm like 11 or 12 books behind and I need to catch up. So I'm trying to do this challenge as you've seen in the title, and that is read 7 books in 7 days. In this challenge I will try to read at least one book in a span of 24 hours, or at least try to. I'll give it my best. So starting off with day 1. So what I decided is I'm gonna try to read like smallest book in terms of page count. So I will go by smallest book, and then the page count will slightly increase till I like finish all my like small books in my TBR, right? So let's get started on the first book that I'm going to read today, and this is the smallest book that I own, and I'm talking about Small Things Like This by Claire Keegan. It's very small. It's like 110 pages, not even. It's like 110 pages. It's pretty small. I can finish this in a day. I think the audiobook is also very small. I'm gonna give the audiobook and the book at the same time. Let's talk about what this book is about. So I do not know anything about the book, and the synopsis doesn't in the back doesn't give anything away. I think I shouldn't read this book right now because it's like Christmas or like winter themed. I think this is the smallest book that I have, and I have been wanting to read this book for a long time. I've heard pretty good things about this. I heard the writing style especially is great in this book. I'm gonna probably finish this and tell you my thoughts about it like as soon as I can. Hi, so it's late at night. It's still day 1. I haven't read a lot. I didn't really got some time, but I did read a little bit of Small Things Like This, our first book of day 1. It's still day 1. It hasn't been ended yet. I have read till page 49. I'm in chapter 5, and let's talk about the book. So this book is set in Ireland. I don't have any experience, or like I do not know a lot of stories from Ireland, or like I do know that there are a lot of good writers from there. Like I think Irish literature is like really popular in BookTube space and like Booker Prize and stuff, right? So this is one of the famous book from there. So this book is set in Ireland in like a small town. It's set in like 1980s or 1990s, and we follow this coal worker and like distributor of coal and some other things named Bill, and Bill tries to like work. Bill is a very hard worker, and he's trying to like maintain his family. He also has a wife, Eileen, and 3 other children. We follow Bill as as Bill and everyone else around him lives their life. He is like concerned with like his past, as like Bill has some problems in his past, like an orphan or something like that. Bill is trying to think about the past, but also worry about the future. So it talks about all these things about past and future, and like worrying about your children, worrying about your future and everything else. So that's the premise of this book. Like I'm sure I didn't really give you a very well description of it because I still haven't finished it yet. Yeah, we just follow a family in this small town as they're trying to live. Some interesting characters, right? When I heard about this book, I thought it would be more like flowery, something like This Is How You Lose the Time War or something like that. The writing style it's solid, it's normal, it's good. There are some like good like quotes or like paragraphs which are hard-hitting. Well, not really hard-hitting, but like, you know, they give you some like special kind of feelings which like makes you wanna like kind of cry, or like gives you like this heaviness in the chest, which I really like. I have like 50 more pages to read. I'm probably gonna finish it after I record, and then we will give my final records today or tomorrow, and then we'll also pick out the next book in the 7 days challenge. Let's see what that book will be. Hey, it's day 2. It was a very bad day. I had a fight. Well, not really fight. Flight. I had I had a flight, not like airplane flight, but like running away from feelings and shit. Okay, so I'm not feeling good at all. So my classmates or like batchmates, I trusted them. I told them some of my like the queer stuff, like, and all the like, you know, the issues with my identity and everything. I trusted them. They betrayed me for like a month, and there was a vacation for a month. And what happened was, you know, I tried to forget it. I tried to like, you know, stop my like regret and like stop forgetting it. You know, it really hurts to have some people in your life that have power to influence your feelings. I feel a lot, and I do not know how to process it. And even like a small like action or like you know, change in their behavior can like influence me. Like, you know, I never have felt like suffer so much from imposter syndrome, but like I kind of felt like I belong there. I'm like avoiding them, getting hard to breathe around them, and it just sucks. I thought my resentment will get smaller. It didn't. They are affecting my studies, they are affecting my mental health, and I don't know what to do about it except run away. So speaking of sorry about all that shit, you know, I don't know if it's good to talk about feelings on the internet. So I did read like after coming here to distract myself from all that shit. Claire Keegan, Small Things Like This. So I'm finished with it. I finished it last night, and yeah, this is a solid novel. Like everything about this novel just works. Like I have no complaints. Just a little bit that I loved every little bit about this novel. It's very well paced, really short. Go read it. Yeah, for like a little bit of like at the end of the book, it kind of feels like we are getting a horror novel. Like something bad's gonna happen, but it doesn't. Like something like bad happens. You feel like something bad happens, but like, you know, everything gets resolved at the end, like it does mostly, because like this is not a horror novel. I think if you see it, you know it's not a horror novel. I really like the ending. There were like few parts where like the ending which kind of like dragged on a little bit, but other than that, it's a perfect book. I would give it like a 4.25 or like 4.5. I'm not too sure, like maybe 4.25 is like a solid like rating. It was pretty small, and as I said that I will continue to increase the pages as I go along. So this was 110 pages, and the next book that I'm reading, like I have just started it like a few hours ago, and that is The Details by, okay, so I cannot pronounce the name because I heard it in the audiobook and it sounds insane. Like I cannot pronounce that name, but it's La Genbergi, or like, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce the author. You can see it, but like it's The Details, and it's translated by Kira Josefsson. So I didn't know anything about this book. So like, okay, so both of these books were recommended by, you know, the one and only Jack Edwards. He recommends like short and like hard hitting and like very like books about like human exploration and like all like different like topics. And I have never tried his recommendation. This was his first, and I really liked it. And this is the Details is the second, and I think this is really good. I have read the first chapter only, so I think this book is divided into like 4 parts. Only read the first part. The main narrator tries to tell you like in detail about the person or of the people they have been with or like known in their life. Like, you know, each chapter is dedicated to their like lover or their friend or their someone else. First one was Johanna. Proper synopsis is that from the first chapter I've read, the narrator is like trying to write a book. They're very anxious and they aren't able to complete the book, are suddenly down with this like with this fever, and in the fever they reminisce about this person named Joanna. Like they talk about like what that person meant to them, right? That's the synopsis. But what I want to talk about is the writing is so good in this book. Like I love it. Some of this quotes. So this is very like book heavy. So we talk a lot about books in the first chapter. At least they both like to read book together and like talk about them and like everything. I absolutely love the books which talk about other books and like publishing and writing. I think it's really cool insight into it. There are some like great quotes in it. Like I have highlighted like in at least in the first chapter, which is like 30 pages, I have highlighted like 6 or 7 quotes. Like I think I'm gonna go along and like when I finish it I will tell you like some of my favorite quotes from this, because I know there are gonna be more. The author and the translator clearly knows like excite or like give you like this feeling of like longingness to another person, and like talking about the other person meant to you even if they're gone and even they have separated, like happened to me today. And yeah, why did I read this chapter right now when I'm going through the similar? It's a coincidence. It's a weird coincidence that like the first chapter has like quotes like I am relating to them right now in this moment. Details is, I think, is gonna be a new favorite. Let's see at the end that if it is or not. I hope I feel better tomorrow and read more, like be able to focus. It's really hard to focus when like so much things are happening right now. Yeah, see you. Hello everyone. So today is day 3 of my reading 7 books in 7 days challenge. Today I didn't go to college because I just wanted a mental reset from everything that happened, and I'm feeling kind of good. I tried to dress femme today and tried some makeup and like everything to like feel a little better about myself. I think it looks okay. Like I'm no expert in makeup and something, but you know, I'm doing with what I got. Okay, in terms of reading, I did finish The Details by La Guenberg. After finishing this book, this was a very good book to read in like from the problems I'm facing through, because this book goes into like the people we meet along our life and like the changes they make in themselves or in ourselves, and like how they affect us and like how relationship affects us, how they form and how they break and everything related to it. So this was surprising. I didn't expect it to be such a good book. So at least there are 4 stories. There are 4 people in the author's life which they talk about. First being Joanna, second being Nikki, third being Alejandro, and fourth being Brisqueta. I just said it as Bridget. Okay, so I just thought of it as Bridget because I love Bridget. Like, of course I love Bridget. Okay, the town inside me. Okay, anyway, so what I was talking about is that, so out of this, my favorite was probably Joanna, and then second was Bridget, and third was Nikki. Okay, I didn't really like the fourth one, Alejandro. I didn't really like resonated with that character, but like all of the 4 characters into that extent, and also the narrator are like very, I would say, like very relatable to me. Like I felt so much like the things I do and like I relate to in like a personal level, like those things were like highlighted or like talked about in this book. So I highlighted a lot of quotes and a lot of things in this book. So let's share a few of them. Okay, so let's go to some of from the many I have highlighted from this book. So this book also talks about a lot of like love for books. So it talks about how much reading in a fever can. I do relate to having fever, and like if you watch something during a fever, like I watched Anohana during fever, and I also watched One Piece during like COVID, and like those two like moments have like stuck with me. I read One Piece during fever, and those two moments I like remember it vividly. Like they have become a core part of my like memory of when I had fever. Right? It's like it's like you say you gain immunity. Like you gain immunity or like memory cells from like having an infection or during vaccine, right? You also gain like a more like a actual memory of like what happened during that time. Like that's so vivid. I totally agree with like the vividness. It says like some books stay in your bones long after the titles and details have slipped from the memory. To read with a fever is a lottery. The contents of the text will either dissolve or penetrate deeper into the cracks accidentally opened by the out of control temperature. So another good quote like about books is comparing to TV is TV means that somebody else is trying to control my gaze, whereas books leave me to my own devices. And okay, so I love the last part of like Bridget. I'm just gonna say Bridget is because it talks about anxiety and like having like complex like anxiety issues around you, and like I related to it on like a very personal level. It kind of made me sad. So Bridget is actually the narrator's mom. I don't want to tell anything more about it. So it talks about like it says I assume this is how a singular experience affects a person. The events get encapsulated with the poison still intact, seeping and slow. It's well known that whoever coined the expression "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger" has never met our victim. Like, so that is like heavy subject. They doesn't go into very deep into it, but they do talk about like what it causes, the trauma of and the anxiety of like those events. At the anxiety that doesn't wax and wane but endures in the form of tension inside everything, there is not laughter but anxious laughter, anxious joy, anxious walking, and anxious way of talking. To adapt and to blend in so much that she disappeared, it either that or losing her mind. Yeah, from this, just all of these quotes describe anxiety so well that like every single part of my life and every single part of like a lot of people life who suffer with anxiety go through like this same stuff where like every single thing is being controlled by like trying to protect yourself and just trying to end the day safely, which makes it really hard for me to like look forward to future and like try to have big dreams. Like I suffer from like just trying to like live a day, that it becomes so much hard to get busy in the day, that it becomes so much hard to like think about like anything but just the past. Cannot even live in a moment, right? So like I highly recommend you, if you really like relationships, like deeper insight into relationships, of how they happen, how they fall apart, interpersonal and intrapersonal relationship and everything in between. So that, as the name says, the detail, so it's very highly detailed, like good way. Like you wanna know every single detail of like almost every person except Alejandro. I didn't really love him, but like Nikki and Joanna and Bridget, like I want to know more. Like I wish this book was kind of longer, and I wish there was like each book for one of these characters, right? So the details is kind of a new favorite. Like I am giving a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Maybe I will chip in into 5 stars. I just didn't really love the Alejandro chapter. Everything else was like surprisingly outstanding. Like I am so glad I read this book. Yeah, thank you Jack for recommending this book, and also recommending Small Things Like This, which were like both of recommendation were great. I kind of know which I like this kind of books, so I will keep an eye out for your recommendation. And yeah, I highly recommend to read both of these books. They were so good and so small that could be read in 1 or 2 days. So yeah, I think this is being a successful vlog. Okay, so for day 3, I am trying to read this classic, which is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think this is a very, like, everybody knows about the movie and the book. It's pretty famous. I don't know anything about this book. I know like it's kind of like a romance or something. I have no idea. As I said, the books will get like a little bit longer as I go along. So the details was around 135 pages, and this is around 146 pages. It's getting a little increased, but still not too much. So still pretty easily to read. So I'm gonna get on reading this one, and I will see you. I'm kind of struggling with reading right now. So I read like more than half of it, of this book, and I'm not enjoying it at all. Like, I do not get the book, I do not get the hype. I just think that this book is not meant for me, and I think that I shouldn't read that, because I'm not going to be fulfilled. I don't really care about any of the characters or everything happening in there. So I decided to DNF it. Like, I have read more than half of the book, and I get the idea of what this book is trying to be, and like, it's just not something that I want to read right now, or maybe ever. I'm just kind of sad that it didn't work for me. Like, I thought that at least it would be like, I just bought it because it was considered a classic and I wanted to read that, but it isn't working for me, so it's a DNF. But I'm gonna still count it as a one book because I read like most of it, so I think it's count as like I read a book in a day. So with that done, let's talk about the fourth book which I want to read. Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. So this is a science fiction novel. It's a pretty short novel. It's around 212 pages, which is a little bit larger size as compared to the books I've been reading for this challenge. Let's talk about this book, of why this really interests me. So I want to get more into classic sci-fi. I want to try more classic sci-fi, and I heard that this one is considered like an inspiration to one of my favorite shows of all time, that is Neon Genesis Evangelion, or I think it has some similar themes. It has been compared to that a lot, so I want to talk about it, and I want to experience it for myself, of how much this compares to my favorite series. This is essentially a first contact with aliens. I think it will be fun. I tried reading it a little bit but couldn't finish it because I just wasn't in the mood. So this will be like a retry for me, but not really, because I didn't really read a lot back then. So yep, Childhood's End. I don't even know what day it is. It's 5th day. So I'm still on book 4 right now. I'm still reading Childhood's End. I am like almost done with it. I have like 50 pages left. So let me give my initial thoughts about this. And actually today is Sunday, so I might try to read the other book also, the book in my next TBR as soon as possible. Probably won't be done with it. I really like this book right now. This book, if you don't know, is about the contacts with alien by the humans, and those aliens are actually, they turn out to be beneficial for humans. And then what happens is that, there's like the exploration of idea about this utopia, and like how if mankind stopped all the war and all the nations become united, and like what would really happen, what would be the consequences and the advantages and the disadvantages of that like particular idea. So this has been explored into it. Just to give you a like small, like how this novel starts. Alien, which is basically overlords, we call them overlords, and what they do is, there is a supervisor of Earth named Karelin, and Karelin gives instruction to these humans, and like kind of helps them, and like helps in making rules. Like there are like some rules where you cannot kill any animal if it's not for hunting or against self-defense, and there's also like a lot of different rules. And so that has been, and also Karelin only talks to only one human, which name is Stormgren, and they both communicate each other, and then Stormgren kind of represent the supervisor. So that's a really cool concept that was explored in like the first half of the book, and the later halves talk about like what the golden age of what happens, what this overlords helping human does to all the society and everything, and the end of it where like humans are trying to kind of overthrow the overlords because they believe that society has become utopic, very boring, and there is no new discoveries, even though there's no crime. Like there's also no like innovation and discoveries. That's the main like explored in this book, and I like some of those topics. I think the topic of with the first half of the book, with the first part of the book, was really good, with like this single alien communicating with this person and that person trying to find out what the alien looks like. So that was a really cool concept. But the later concept of like the golden age, as it's called, the second half, where they talk about all the great things that happen because of alien, that was kind of okay. Like I didn't really interested in that stuff, like basic stuff, like people had flying cars, people have like this different translator, they anywhere very fast, and they were very rich and stuff like that. And that was like okay, like I don't really need to know about. Then later it also gets interesting with suddenly someone wanting to find out like who these aliens came from, and like they try to investigate and find their planet, the aliens planet, and everything was interesting. So I have like 50 pages in. I'm gonna finish it and give you an update, and then let's get started with the fifth book. Okay, I just got done with Childhood End. I just updated like half an hour ago. I've just finished it. I cannot wait another a second to talk about this book. Wow. So as I said everything about this book, but like at least the last, not even the chapter, the last 5 pages of this book were surreal. They were absolutely, I know what's gonna happen. Like I picked up this book because I thought, and I have been told, that this is very similar to Evangelion, and I love Evangelion, and this is very similar to Evangelion, particularly the end of Evangelion, the movie. So the themes of that movie that happens, it also happens in the end of Childhood's End. So a lot of ends in both of those. Okay, so I don't want to spoil anything about the ending, but you know, like if you have watched the end of Evangelion, and even if you read the book, and like at least at certain point you would get hints, and you would like form this that, oh, like that's gonna happen. And even if you don't, like it isn't very surprising when they reveal it, and like at the first, but as the happens, and the sequence, every single sequence that's been described in the last episode are so it just felt so like ethereal, like out of this world. Especially the contrast between like the observation of what is happening from a point of view of a human is just such a good idea to be like implemented into this. And that was already set up from like 100 pages ago, and that was like brilliant. For me, reading up to this book, this was like a 3.5, but I just love the ending. The last 5 pages, literally, like I couldn't able to see because my eyes went like numb. It was very sad. And when if you like read all the book, and if you see, you'll finally understand what the title Childhood's End mean. Like that's such a good title to name a book like this, cause that's what happened. Childhood's end. They literally end in this book, and just wow. So yeah, it's a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I cannot give it more than that, because I know there's some like lull points and like some few issues, but like the last chapter, you know, a lot of people say, there's a saying that like the ending makes the show, the book, or the series. And it's kind of true if it's like you want it to be, and it's even more than you want it to be, right? So yes, such a good ending for a science fiction book. Like I love it, and it also like contrasts and is like kind of a prequel, not really like inspired Arthur C. Clarke's magnum opus, as everyone says, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I have seen the movie, and yeah, I can see that like how this book predates, act as a predecessor to 2001, and I didn't really like 2001. I think it was obnoxious. Like I'm no film critic, but you know, a movie have to be more interesting than just pretty colors, and that was 2001. But no, we are talking about Childhood's End. Speaking of movies, please someone make a movie of this. I don't know if it exists or not. I probably have to Google it. If Denis Villeneuve is watching, please, Denny, please make a movie of it. I know you're making Rendezvous with Rama, which is I think also by Arthur C. Clarke, and that sounds, I haven't read that one, but after you're done with this, please make a movie of this, because I really love this, and this would make such a good movie. Like I want this to be like Arrival or like Interstellar type of like Hollywood super big budget movie, because I think it would do very good. Like as a science fiction fan, this should be made into a movie, and I don't know why it hasn't been, or maybe it has, I don't know, but maybe that's not that good one. So someone as good as director as Denis Villeneuve or Christopher Nolan or any like good sci-fi director, please make this into a movie, please. I want this to be a movie so bad. That was my gushing. I'm so glad that I have this YouTube channel to like talk about books like this, because this is the moment I wanted it to be when I started like this channel, to like finish a book, and just so that's so fun. It's so fun. So please talk to me about Childhood's End. I love this book. I've been reading so good books like this challenge. I have read 3 books and all of them were above 4 stars. That's a win. I did DNF, The Great Gatsby, but like the 3 books were above 4 stars, and I love all the 3 books were great. So I hope we continue that train with the next book, and the next book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. So this is a change of pace from sci-fi. This is like a YA, like contemporary, like coming of age is I think a good word to describe it. A coming of age novel about being a introvert or being a loner, coming to terms with it, accepting it, or maybe making yourself better about it. And I could really use that. This should be relatable, and I hope I get to learn some like insight and some like tips from this book. So that's my like expectations of this book, and even if it doesn't meet it, I just want a good drama, a good like teenage drama about all this stuff. So yeah, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I'm gonna start this today and finish it probably tomorrow, because I'm kind of tired. Keep on with this challenge. This is the 5th book in this challenge, and there are 2 more books left, and I'm excited to read those 2 books also. So day 5th book, here I go. Okay, it's day 7, so it's the last day. I haven't read 7 books in 7 days yet, but I hope I could finish that today. So on day 6, I did complete The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I stayed up late and completed all of it, and I have some thoughts about it. So as I remember that I didn't talk anything about the book because I haven't started reading it back then, but after like fully finishing it, here are my like whole thoughts about this book. So this book is essentially about some teenagers who I definitely belong to, having a problem with trauma, with having problem with PTSD, and just not feeling like they belong anywhere. So it's a talk about that, it's talk about family and relationships and having friends and like messing up and crying a lot, and it has a lot of feels, it has a lot of emotions. That's great. So it's set in 1990s, early 1990s. So I, of course, I wasn't alive back then, so So there's a lot of like smoking and doing drugs and having sex and like talking about all of this stuff. The main character, Charlie, who was a wallflower, and definitely wallflower means, I looked up the definition of wallflower, and wallflower actually means someone who is like, who observes people, and someone who doesn't really like participate, or essentially like a very introverted person, which I relate to. So a lot of Charlie's like thinking process, and like a lot of like his behavior is relatable to me, and that makes it way more emotional, at least to me. I really enjoyed the aspect of reading books in this, and it's just a very good novel to read around when you're a teenager. And I think if I could have picked up like 2-3 years ago, I think this would be more potent for me, because the essentially theme of this book is like learning about your grief, and like processing your grief and processing your guilt and blaming and relationships. And I have kind of already processed this, as you know, as you do when time passes. And yeah, I think this was a good, it talked all about that, and I got it. Like I already understood what Charlie was going through, and because I have gone through the same things also, so with like losing your family member and stuff like that. So those stuff were great, and I just enjoyed a lot of it. I love Charlie. Charlie is a sweetheart. It's one of the best like teenage portrayal of like my teenagehood. I'm still in my teenagehood, but like early teenagehood I have seen in books or in like any media. Like he's like sweet child. Okay, so I love him. I love all the characters, and exploration of sexuality is also there, like how to treat people, and overall a very like good book to read if you are in your teens, and even if you have gone past it, and if you want to look back into that stuff and be sad and nostalgic about it. So I'm going to give this very solid 4 out of 5 stars, which I think I'm gonna remember for a long time. Also need to watch the movie though. I heard the movie is also really good, and this is the first time I've heard that our author of this book is also the director of that movie, so I think that's really cool. So this was the 5th book I read on day 6th, so, and today is day 7th, and I'm currently reading the 6th book on my TBR, and that is Oversea and Understone by Suzanne Cooper. This is the first book in the Dark is Rising like sequence. I think there are 5 books, and this is like an old fantasy series which it is not that popular, at least not to me. Like I haven't heard anybody talk about this book, but I think it's really like it is popular among like who read children fantasy. And yeah, this is the first book in the series. I've read like 100 pages of it. So this book is around 210 pages, so like almost as same as the Wallflower, like around the same similar page count. This has been such a fun ride to read. So I love treasure hunting in books. I think that's such a good trope. So we follow 3 children whose name are Barnaby. So we call him Barney, and he also has 2 siblings who are Simon, and other one is Jane. So these 3 children along with their father and mother go to this English town. They rent this house along with their uncle, whose name is with their uncle Mary. And Mary is like it's like a professor who likes to explore a lot, who likes to go on an adventure. And also all these 3 kids accidentally found a secret passage in their house and found this map, or like a manuscript which talks about this legend and talks about this treasure, or like holy grail. And so that's how the adventure starts, with along them other like bad people, evil people are trying to find the treasure. So they have to hide the map and like work together to find out what that map is, where that map leads to. And like it's been so much fun. It's very well written. So right now it's very adventurous, but I do think that in the later book it will get into like more like fantastical stuff when we like reach to the treasure, and like I think this has a lot of potential, and I'm glad I'm reading this because this is like new to me, because I have not heard anybody talk about this book ever in my life, and I just found it on like a internet, on like a website, and I think that's really cool, that to find a book that nobody has heard of. So if you have heard of this book, and if you like this book, talk to me about what this series means to you, because I think this deserves recognition. Well, even with the 100 pages I've read, I think this will be a very fun series to read. Hopefully at least start maybe the 7th book in this in this challenge, and we will see if I do that or not. Hello, so it's day 8, and let's talk about all the books I've read. So the challenge has officially finished. It's been 7 days, and as you would have guessed, I didn't finish my last book, which was well, I did finish the 6th book, which was the Over Sea and Under Stone. So first let's talk about that book. Over Sea and Under Stone by Suzanne Cooper. This is the first book in like a 5-book trilogy, and I think I got too excited by finding a new, thinking that this will be like a new favorite series. And you know, I was reading this for a challenge, and I was trying to finish it as soon as possible for the day, so that's why I didn't really like absorbed a lot of it, a lot of the funness of this book. But overall it was a okay book. I would argue that like if I have read it very slowly, if I have read it and absorbed like all the things this book had to say, and all the adventure slowly, I think I would have liked it more. Over Sea Under Stone as a first book, I think it's a really good first book for the start of the series. I am going to continue with it, but I need some time, and I will probably read it at a slower pace than I read this one, because I read this in like one sitting, because I was really enjoying the first half, but the second half it kind of got repetitive. Like, you know, it's like if you found a clue to this holy grail, and then after that clue you find the similar clue again and again and again. Bad guys chasing after them, and predictable at the end, but overall I enjoyed all the like finding secrets, and you know what, this book setups for what will happen in the next book. I think I'm interested in that. Little bit of like horror moments which are fun, like not really horror, but like something like a child would be scared. So I do get scared easily when it comes to books and movies and even video games. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. So unfortunately I didn't finish the challenge because I didn't read the last book in my challenge, and that last book was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Bought this book a long time ago. It's so banged up, like look at this, there's like rust on it. So it's a very old book, and I tried reading it very long ago, but didn't really got to it. So I thought might as well try it, reading it in a challenge. You know, I want to enjoy a book, and after some times, like reading small book is fine, but as the pages go bigger and bigger, like I lose more interest if I try to read it faster, because you know, I'm not able to like process everything or every character if I try to read it faster. So I think there's a both way, that if you read fast you will complete more books, but if you read slowly, there's a big chance that you will enjoy it more, but it will take a long time to finish it. So I didn't finish it. I will try to read it someday when I like feel like reading a murder mystery, not right now. So yeah, this was the 7th book which I didn't finish. So let's talk about the overall challenge. These are the 6 books plus this in which I read in my Kindle. I read the details. So this were the 7 books I tried to read. I didn't read this one, and I DNF'd this one. So speaking of the 5 books I read, first one being Small Things Like This. It's a great short book. You can read it in a day. It's like 100 pages, and it has a great message about like family and a sense of community, and I really enjoyed it, loved it, such a great time. The next one I read is The Details, which was probably my favorite out of all of these books. Was the like I think it's one of my new favorite books. I'm not gonna stop talking about it anytime soon because the details was such a good book. It's so great. Everything about it is so great. Okay, the next book that I read was The Great Gatsby, but I didn't finish it. So after that, I picked up Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. You know, it's about like first contact with alien, and like it's the idea of that is explored very well. But the ending is the one that like gravitated towards, because the ending is so similar to End of Evangelion. I do like understand why like this book is recommended. If you like Evangelion, you should read this definitely. Next is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is a very sweet book about Charlie, who still like struggles with being himself and like growing up, and like a lot of like relatable things, sometimes too much, and it kind of scares me. And I talked about Oversea and Under Stone, which was the 5th book I read. So I read 5 out of 6, 7 books. I renamed one and I didn't even start the last one. So my goal was to finish this small books on my TBR to catch up with the reading challenge I have. Well, I think I'm 8 books behind. Earlier I was like 10 or 11 books behind on my challenge. So I did put a dent in it, but I don't think it's possible to like read 8 books in like a day or like in like a week to like catch up with the challenge. So I got my lesson, and then from now on I will try to read it slowly, still do some challenges, but read slowly, enjoy the books, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to enjoy books, get some recommendation, give some recommendation, and like not be like a circus, and like try to entertain you by reading as much book as possible. I think that's not I'm trying to do from now. So that was all. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got recommendation. Go read the details, and also some of these books, which were like all of those books were above 3 and 4 stars. So please go read them, and I will see you soon later. Bye.